Hello everyone, I'm Hardman Canada and I can speak with my telepathic powers because of my mustache. Today I will talk about this game, Sonic 2, the game that traumatized me when I was a kid. The reason why Sonic 2 traumatized me is because of the first boss. The first boss is the hardest boss of the game. He is harder than the final boss. Be careful, I'm talking about the 8-bit version of Sonic 2. Sonic 2 on the Sega Game Gear. Don't get confused with the 16-bit version of Sonic 2 on the Sega Genesis. That boss is way too easy. He is a joke. But the first boss in Sonic 2 on Sega Game Gear is Robotnik's giant ant. His name is Antlion. Take a moment to think about this. Take a moment to sink it in. In a normal game, the first boss is the easiest boss of the game. But in this game, the first boss is the hardest boss of the game. That's crazy. That's insane. Before I show you Antlion, I will show you a few examples to illustrate the craziness, the pure craziness of this concept. Imagine that you play King of Fighter 13. And the first boss is Saki, the hardest boss of King of Fighter. If Saki was the first boss, it will be insane. Saki is a naked demon that can read your mind. He can anticipate your movement because he knows what button you are pressing on your controller. He can counter-attack all of your attack, no problem, and his super combo damage everything on the screen. For those of you who played King of Fighter 13, you know how difficult and unfair he can be. He made it in my list of the top 75 hardest bosses in fighting game history. But believe it or not, Antlion is harder than him. Imagine that you play Xenoblade Chronicles and the first boss you face is the hardest boss of the game, the Golden Mechon. Can you imagine the shock you would have? That's the kind of shock that can traumatize a kid. And Antlion traumatized me like that when I was a cute kid. During the final round, you must beat the Golden Mechon before the time limit, or else he will destroy Bionis, the world where our hero lives. Believe it or not, Antlion is harder than him. Imagine that you play Mighty Number 9 and the boss of the first level is Trinity, the hardest boss of the game. Trinity is extremely crazy. She is completely insane. The first time I fought against her, I was game over millions of times, until I memorized her pattern. Antlion is harder than her. Antlion made me game over trillions of times, not million, not billion, trillions of times. I'm scared of Antlion. Imagine that you play Castlevania 4 and the first boss that you face is the hardest boss of the game. Death. Death is more difficult than Dracula, the final boss. He is the second to last boss of the game. He wants to kill you, he wants to destroy you, he wants to annihilate you. Your character is slow and you must dodge fast projectiles that's almost impossible to evade. This boss will test your limit. The first time I fought against him, I thought that I would never be able to beat him. Antlion is harder than him. Trust me. Antlion is way harder than Death. Imagine that you play the Mega Man Legend series and your only option was to play at the highest difficulty setting. And imagine that the first boss is Trombone in very hard mode. Trombone is my favorite Mega Man character. Trombone in this difficulty is unforgivable. She can kill you in 3 direct hits. Or worse of all, imagine if you have to face Sarah as the first boss. If that was the case, it would be a game that doesn't show you any mercy. But Sonic 2 is a game that shows you no mercy because Antlion is the first boss and Antlion doesn't know the meaning of the word mercy. Imagine that you play Yakuza 4 and the first boss of the game is the hardest boss of the game. The army of police officers. This fight is epic. You fight on the roof of a building and you can see the whole city. I showed you a lot of bosses to make you understand the craziness of Antlion. Antlion is harder than all of these bosses combined together. All of the bosses that I show you are less than 1% power of Antlion's power. He is the first boss of the game and he is the hardest boss of the game. He is harder than the final boss. I can't believe this. The first boss of Sonic 2, Antlion, is the hardest boss of the game. In all my life, I have never seen anything like this. The first boss of the game is the hardest boss. I don't know any other game with something this crazy. Now, it's time to show you Antlion. Do you remember the giant bee in Donkey Kong 2? In the level of the beehive, you are just taking a walk and suddenly the boss of the level appears in the middle of the level to pursue you before you face her. In Sonic 2, something similar happens to you. You control Sonic, and Sonic is just running and walking around, minding his own business, and suddenly Robotnik appears without warning, and he wants to capture you to feed you to his giant Antlion. This is Antlion, the first boss of the game, who is also the hardest boss of the game. I finished the game of Sonic 2 a long time ago, and I can confirm you that Antlion is more difficult than the final boss. These are the reasons why Antlion is so hard. Number 1. We cannot see the whole fighting arena because of the small screen of the Sega Game Gear. Very often you will see an attack at the very last second and you won't be able to evade the attack. Number 2. The fighting arena is the worst place to be. You fight on a hill that goes downwards, so gravity is your worst enemy. Every time you move, you will slide and Antlion will eat you alive. Number 3. Antlion is a carnivore. He wants to eat you alive. Just by his name, Antlion. Is not a normal ant. He's not a normal giant ant. He's an Antlion. The word lion. Lion is a king of the jungle. He's an animal that eats meat. He's a hunter. He wants to kill you. He has the instinct of a lion. And he wants to eat you alive. His name, Antlion. Just by his name, you know that he means business. Number 4. Antlion throws bouncing cannonballs at you and it's very difficult to evade. You need to move slowly if you don't want to slip downhill, but if you are too slow, you cannot evade the cannonball. So you need to move fast to evade the cannonball, but if you move too fast, you will slip and Antlion will eat you. You are in a lose-lose situation. Whatever you do, you must die. We should call this game Sonic Must Die. Number 5. I don't understand how he managed to throw cannonballs at you. It doesn't make any sense. Number 6. Antlion moves faster and faster the more he gets mad, as if it wasn't hard enough already. Number 7. Antlion is Robotnik's ultimate creation. Antlion is more dangerous than Metal Sonic, Metal Knuckle and Tails Doll combined together. That day, Robotnik made an effort to eliminate Sonic. I will say this again and again. Antlion is the first boss and he is the hardest boss of the game. And that's not normal. This is the type of craziness we see in a typical final boss battle. Antlion should have been the final boss. You are watching the gameplay of me fighting Antlion and you are probably thinking, Hardman Canada, he doesn't look that tough. I'm sure you must be exaggerating like usual. Wrong answer. This time I am not exaggerating. Unless you try and fight him on the actual Sega Game Gear console, you cannot understand how difficult he is. You just cannot understand. Did you see that? Robotnik is completely crazy. He got involved in a fight that doesn't concern him and charged at me without warning. I jump scared. He jump scared me. He is a crazy, insane maniac. I finally defeated Antlion. Yeah. Oh no, I completely forgot. There is a second round. I knew it was too good to be true. In the second round, Antlion summons a UFO and you must fight him. If you lose, you will restart from the beginning and have to face Antlion again. I knew it was too good to be true. No. I had enough. I had enough of Antlion. For my protection, I will move to another country. Another country. I am not a Canadian anymore. I will move to the United States and we will call me Hardman USA. But that's a bad idea because Canadian English is very different. They make fun of Canadian English accent and they will make fun of my beautiful French Canadian accent. They have a different pronunciation for the word mustache and they don't measure the distance in kilometers. In that case, I will move to France. We will call me Hardman France. But the French of France and the Canadian French are different. They will make fun of my Canadian French accent and they don't know what's maple syrup. In that case, I will move to Antarctica to live with the penguins. Antlion will never follow me in Antarctica. We will call me Hardman Antarctica from now on. In conclusion, Antlion, the first boss of the game, is the hardest boss of the game. I played a lot of video games in my life, from Atari 2600 to PS4, and I don't know any other game where the first boss is the hardest boss of the game. Share your opinion with me. Do you agree with me that Antlion is the hardest boss of Sonic 2? Antlion is the most difficult first boss I ever seen in my life. I never saw anything like this in my life. The first boss is the hardest boss of the game and this is beyond insanity. If I ever decide to make a video about my top 20 hardest boss in Sonic games, Antlion will be in the top 3. I can guarantee it. The next Sonic game that's going to get released is Sonic Mania. Imagine if the first boss of Sonic Mania was the final boss of Sonic 2. Or worse. Imagine if Antlion returns to take his revenge. That will be a catastrophe. Bye everyone, I love you all because of my mustache. See you next time. Oops! Because of my overactive imagination, I jumped to conclusion too quickly. Subscribe to my channel because next time I will talk about how